In MultiVersus, Arya Stark is one of the more complicated fighters to play as. However, once you've learned her moveset and mastered her playstyle, she's very strong and extremely fun. This guide will cover Arya's passive abilities, moves, and the best perks to use with her. In addition, we will go over how to combine Arya's various moves and abilities into powerful combos. As usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. Let's start with Arya's passive abilities. Arya is an assassin archetype. The upside of assassins is that they gain the critical strike ability, adding 50% bonus damage on any melee attacks that hit enemies in the back. When you land a critical hit, a backstab indicator will appear. Now, the downside for assassins is that they also have the glass cannon passive, and take 14% increased damage from all sources. This means that we have to be a bit more on top of our game as an assassin, prioritizing dodges to stay in the fight. Arya has 3 other passive abilities. First, when Arya successfully avoids an attack with her neutral dodge, both she and her ally temporarily gain the Disorient buff. Disorient causes your next attack to break the enemy's armor and forces them to face away from you, opening them up to a backstab. This effect pairs particularly well with Arya's side special when her knife throw is on cooldown, the spinning stab. The Disorient buff lasts for around 5 seconds or until you land an attack on an enemy, whichever comes first. Next, when Arya knocks out an enemy, she spawns a pie that will both heal allies for 6 points of damage and deal slow to enemies. However, as of patch 1.0, the pie seems to be bugged. While it should only heal allies and only deal slow to enemies, instead allies are not able to consume the pie for health, and enemies are both slowed and healed by the pie. Hopefully we see this get fixed soon in an upcoming patch. Finally, when an ally of Arya is knocked out, Arya becomes Enraged, making her next attack deal maximum stacks of Weakened to an enemy. The Weakened condition causes enemies to incur greater knockback and damage when hit by attacks. Arya's Enraged state ends after about 15 seconds or after she lands an attack on an enemy, whichever comes first. Now let's move on to Arya's moves, starting with her attacks. Arya's neutral ground attack is the Needle Strike. I like to map the neutral attack to my right bumper so that I can use it on demand without having to worry about my directional inputs. The Needle Strike causes Arya to take a step back, potentially avoiding attacks, before thrusting forward with her rapier. Both the damage dealt and range of the thrust can be increased by charging the attack. It effectively counters Finn's charging sword or hand attack and Shaggy's flying kick. However, it doesn't have the necessary range to effectively counter something like Jake's side air attack, the Stretchy Punch. If Arya has stolen the face of another fighter, then their neutral ground attack replaces this one. We'll talk more about that when we get to Arya's special moves. Arya's neutral air attack results in a knife flourish. This attack is angled downward at 45 degrees. It's also fairly quick and can hit up to 2 times in one go. It can be used in situations where enemies are defending with either horizontal or vertical attacks, allowing you to slide between either to deal some damage. This can also lead into a potential combo. Once again, Arya's neutral air attack will be overridden by the neutral air attack of the fighter whose face she has stolen. Onto the side attacks, we have Sharp Edges for the ground. This is a quick 1-2 combo that will usually hit stun an enemy on the first strike and launch them horizontally on the second. Its range is not particularly great, so it usually needs to be used as either a follow-up to something like the neutral air attack or a dodge, or when the enemy is otherwise unprepared for it. Arya's side air attack, the Aerial Slash, is a particularly effective means of scoring a horizontal ring out. I use it most often when an enemy is off the side of the map and trying to recover. It can be charged, both allowing for a timed strike and to increase its damage and knockback. The Aerial Slash is best used against enemies that are level with or slightly above and to the side of Arya. Moving on to the upward attacks, Arya's ground upward slash is fairly unimpressive, dealing only minor damage and lackluster knockback, though it can be charged. It doesn't have all that good of range either, and this is probably my least used attack. However, Arya makes up for this with her upward air attack, the Whirling Stab. This is one of Arya's most important moves and can be paired with her upward special, the Dagger Slash, to execute devastating ladder combos. It deals a good amount of damage and moderate knockback. Arya's down ground attack, the Rolling Slash, is very fun to use. It causes Arya to roll forward, which acts as a dodge, then quickly strike back in the opposite direction. This can be used to dodge an incoming attack from an enemy, then quickly land a backstab in response. If you use it sparingly, it can be a great way to catch an enemy off guard. Arya's down air attack is a straightforward vertical spike. It can be charged and has moderate range damage and knockback, but also a fairly narrow hitbox. As a quick tip, if you don't want to worry about fast falling while trying to use Arya's downward thrust, map attacks to the right joystick and use that input to initiate this attack. The most obvious use of this move is to spike down an enemy trying to recover from the side of the map. If the enemy is on solid ground, Arya's spike can also be used to initiate a vertical combo, spiking the enemy into and off of the ground before following it up with an upward special. Speaking of which, now we can move on to Arya's specials, which all perform the same whether they are done on the ground or in the air. To begin, her neutral special, Face Stealer. I recommend mapping the neutral special to the left bumper, which is similar to what we did with the neutral attack. Arya's neutral special is her most complicated move, so bear with me. First, this move is somewhat difficult to pull off against enemies and requires good timing. Fortunately, Arya can also steal an ally's face, though in that case it will have a cooldown. When Arya hits a fighter with Face Stealer, she gets up to 5 stacks or charges of their face. These stacks of face remain until used or until Arya is wrung out. When Arya uses her neutral ground attack or neutral air attack, it is then overridden and replaced by the neutral attack of the fighter whose face was stolen, consuming 1 stack of the stolen face. Unfortunately, as of patch 1.0, Arya's neutral attacks are not consistently overridden by the neutral attacks of the fighter whose face was stolen. Hopefully this is fixed soon in a future update. I tried out all of the current fighters' neutral attacks, and here are some of my favorites. Shaggy's Armored Punch, Finn's Sword Charge, Harley Quinn's Aerial Pummeler, Wonder Woman's Whirling Sword, Superman's Armored Punch, Iron Giant's Booster Barrage, Rain Dog's Ranged Attack, and Velma's Ranged Attack. Experimenting with the neutral attacks of other fighters is a great way to up your versatility and adaptability with Arya, though it will take a lot of practice to get it down. As long as Arya has 1 stack of a fighter's face, you can use your neutral special again to unleash a stunning shockwave as Arya performs a taunt as the fighter she has the face of. This consumes any remaining face stacks. Just like the Face Stealer move, this taunt move has a wind-up time that can make it difficult to pull off against competent enemies. While Arya is transformed, enemies that move within range will become stunned for 1 or 2 seconds, leaving them vulnerable to attacks. The stun has a radius of about 10 small grid marks in the lab, so any attacks that have a range further than that can be used to hit Arya while she is taunting, interrupting her. It's risky, but if you pull off this stunning maneuver, you can follow it up with some great combos. Okay, now let's talk about Arya's other specials. Her downward special, Blade Sharpener, acts as a neutral dodge and will cause Arya to dash to her closest ally, assuming they're within range. In addition, it gives both Arya and her nearby allies the Disorient buff, which we discussed while going over Arya's passive abilities. Now, there is some additional text about how this ability works if it is on cooldown. The problem is that as of patch 1.0, this ability does not work at all when it's on cooldown. Finally, we get to talk about Arya's 2 best special moves. Arya's side special will have her throw a knife projectile that can attach to fighters. Repeating Arya's side special will cause Arya to dash to the knife's location. You need to be careful about this because if you throw the knife off the edge of the map and then dash to it, you can easily take yourself out of the fight. If the knife is attached to a fighter, then Arya will also hit and damage enemy fighters in her path as she dashes to her target. She will also dodge through sources of constant damage such as Taz's Tornado. However, if the knife is not stuck to a fighter, Arya will not hit enemies as she dashes, nor dodge their attacks. Sticking an enemy with a knife throw is a great way to set up some guaranteed hits, as you can easily follow up the dash with an upward air attack for more damage and knockback potential. Here is more important info about the knife throw that isn't made clear by its description. Now, I want to preface this segment by saying that I figured this information out through testing it in the lab, and that it's all based on the 1.0 patch version of the game. Because of that, be sure to check the comment I have pinned for any updates or changes to Arya. The knife throw has a cooldown of 25 seconds, but this is reduced to 12.5 seconds if the knife attaches to an enemy fighter. However, if the knife attaches to an ally fighter, then the knife throw's cooldown is almost instantaneous. Also, if the knife misses, it can be picked up by any fighter that comes in contact with it and apply the corresponding cooldown reduction. So if you are playing in teams, try to pick up the missed knife throws of your Arya allies, as it will do a lot to help them. The knife can be destroyed by other projectiles while in flight or on the ground, and it will disappear on its own after about 3 seconds. If the knife attaches to a fighter, its duration is extended by about 2 seconds for a total duration of 5 seconds. And here are some other sneaky traits of the knife throw. If the knife is not attached to a fighter and you dash past an ally that is within melee range, it will give that ally the Disorient buff for some odd reason. Even more strange, if the knife is attached to a fighter and you dash past an ally that is within melee range, it will actually give them a buff that I have never seen before, indicated by a floating sharpen text that appears over their heads. There is no sharpen modifier mentioned in the game's glossary. However, I think it causes attacks to deal increased damage and break armor for a short duration. I'm not sure if any of this is intentional, but it definitely seemed like it was worth mentioning. Now, if the knife throw is on its cooldown, Arya's side special will be replaced by a spinning stab attack that breaks armor. This attack has decent range and can be a great way to knock enemy fighters off the map if they get caught up in the spin. It's also the move that benefits most from the Disorient buff. However, this move can also leave Arya vulnerable to downward spike attacks from enemies that are above her, and can leave her in an exposed position if the spin misses towards the edge of the map. So Arya's neutral and side specials are both complicated. Fortunately, there is nothing too complicated about her upward special move. Arya performs an uppercut with her dagger, and if she hits an enemy with it, it knocks them up in the air and also causes Arya to fly up after them. This can lead really nicely into a chain of upward special and upward normal attacks, ultimately making for an awesome ladder combo with the potential of low damage knockouts. This move will come into play for many of my favorite combos to perform with Arya. Before that though, let's go over the best perks for Arya. For me, Arya is mostly reliant on her aerial capabilities and her knife throw. Because of that, all the perks chosen will revolve around that playstyle. Triple jump is a must, and if you are playing duos, I definitely recommend that both players take this perk for the consistent triple jump. With triple jump locked in, there are 3 other perks I think compete with our remaining 2 slots. The first is Aerial Acrobat. It's another fantastic perk, increasing the speed at which Arya can move through the air and close in on her enemies. There is also Leg Day, which increases jump height by 10%. Finally, we have I dodge, you dodge, we dodge, which reduces all active cooldowns by 10% of their maximum every time you dodge an attack. This can be extremely beneficial, allowing you to drastically reduce the cooldown time of missed knife throws by simply dodging attacks, which you should be doing plenty of. Now, as for Arya's signature perk, there are only 2 choices. Betrayal can be great, but it only works in team-based modes. In short, it allows Arya to use her knife throw to give both herself and an ally fighter the Enraged buff. It will, however, extend the cooldown of the knife throw from instant to about 12.5 seconds when the knife attaches to an ally. Arya's other signature perk, Trophy, allows her to automatically steal an enemy's face when she eliminates them. If you are in solos, then this is going to be the only viable pick. Even in team-based modes, Trophy might be worth taking over Betrayal if you value a quicker cooldown on the knife throw. Now let's briefly talk combos. Attaching the throwing knife to an enemy is a great way to either start or complement any combo. You should always be trying to use the throwing knife when it is available. If you manage to attach a throwing knife to an enemy and they willingly jump into the air, they are basically asking to be low damage knocked out of the arena. However, you can also facilitate this by sticking the enemy with the throwing knife, then use a low air neutral attack followed by an upward special and upward attack. Fast drop to the ground to regenerate your air specials, then side special to dash up to the enemy suspended in midair, opening up another combo of upward specials and upward attacks. The end result will either be a lot of damage or a spectacular ring out and disgruntled enemy. Now, if you stick an enemy with a throwing knife and fail to connect with an air neutral attack or an upward special, your best bet is to then use side special followed by an up special and an upward attack, so that you at least get some damage out of that throwing knife hit before it disappears. If Arya's throwing knife is on cooldown, a great series of moves is to catch an enemy up in Arya's side special, followed up by 1 or more charged side attacks with the hope of getting a horizontal ring out. The exact moves you use will change depending on the arena you are in and the fighter you are facing. However, most of Arya's combos will follow a pattern that is similar to the combos covered here. One other quick note, if you need it, dodges can be used vertically as a sort of additional jump. However, doing this will consume your dodges and leave you more vulnerable to reprisal attacks from the enemy. That's all I've got for this video. Let me know if you have any questions or comments regarding Arya and how to best play as her. If you want to see more great content, you can head over to my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat, her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day, if you're here today, have a great Friday, and a great weekend, and as always, thanks for watching.